Hi, I'm Jed Sims and welcome to the 4 dimensions of project governance. We're going to cover the 4 things you really need to know to be successful in a project governance role. Now, it may surprise you to know that more projects fail due to poor project governance than poor project management. When research is done into why projects fail, particularly major projects and programs, the top 3 reasons all come down to project governance or poor project governance. Lack of leadership, lack of senior management commitment, lack of strategic connection, all things that the project governance team should be managing. Project management or poor project management normally comes in at 5, 6, 7 on the list, whereas 1, 2 and 3, project governance, drivers of failure. This is because project governance is not well understood. And when you take on a project governance role, you have to look at it and say, well, do I see it as an opportunity, an obligation, or a threat? Some people are there, they really don't want to be there. They do not see this as part of their overall role, and they see it as an obligation or a threat. It's really an opportunity to make a difference in the organization, to improve things for yourself, your staff, your customers, your shareholders. Some will drive for success, others just want to avoid failure. That is death to a project, trying to avoid failure. In one particular project, the sponsor told the project manager, whatever else happens, we must come in on time, on budget. So the project manager culled the one other dimension, the scope, and was in the position to deliver an unworkable solution on time, on budget, just because they were trying to avoid failure. Drive for success is what you should be aiming to do. Deliver organizational improvement or be worse off. Do you realize that 40% of projects leave their organizations worse off than before they were installed? So this is not some marginal opportunity that may occur, but it's happening a lot. You really need to be looking at delivering organizational improvement. And target value optimization rather than just controlling the costs. And we'll come back to this again and again because it's a key difference between project governance and operational management. Project governance is about value optimization, getting the best value out of the investment, whereas operational management is often about cost control, just making sure we don't spend more than we have in our budgets. So even from this brief introduction, I hope that you've realized that project governance is much more than just turning up to meetings and making decisions and then disappearing and forgetting about it again. So what are the 4 dimensions you need to know? You need to know what to do in your governance role, when to do it, because making the right decision at the wrong time can be as destructive as making the wrong decision at the right time. You also need to know why you're doing it, what you're trying to achieve, and what are the parameters and context within which you are making this decision, and of course, how to do it. So these are the 4 dimensions of project governance. And as so few executives and managers have ever been trained in project governance, they're guessing at the answers to a lot of these questions. They hope that their operational and skills and their intuition and their gut reaction will get it right most of the time. Well, as we just saw, 40% of projects leave organizations worse off than before, so they're not getting it right all of the time by a long way. The actual success rate, which we'll cover later on another session, is about 5%. 5% success rate. Now, if you had any other part of your organization that was only achieving 5% success rate, you'd be down there with all guns blazing trying to improve it. And this is why we're focusing here on the most important part of projects, which is project governance. So, just briefly, who am I and what are my qualifications to be saying this? I've been delivering strategy and projects for over 40 years. I'm Jed Sims. I founded TOP in 1994. So I've been doing this for over 40 years. I was given accountability for all projects in a major bank some 30 years ago, and that's what really started me on this journey of why do we get such poor results? We have all these intelligent people on projects, but we're not getting the returns and results we expect. So I challenge the orthodoxy, the way we go about it, the accepted practices, and that's what we've redefined into TOP. I was invited to join BCG as a regional IT strategist, where I ran worldwide research into where does the value go on projects. We start off with these high hopes, but we just don't deliver them, and project governance is one of those factors that destroys value when it's not done right. So I discovered that there's a gap between strategy and results, between intent and delivery, and that's what I've developed and packaged the expertise as TOP, totally optimized projects, tools, techniques and processes. So that's my background. I've held just about every role you can have in relation to projects: project manager, investment committee member, sponsor, steering committee member, you name it, I've done it. So this is something I've lived for the last 30, 40 years. And therefore, but I come from a business background, therefore I don't bring you a project perspective, I bring you a business perspective. So project governance is really all about delivering 4 types of value, what I call the 4 V's of governance, if I can pronounce that way. The first one is you immediately relate to delivering the financial value, whatever the financial value in the business case is, making sure that is delivered. Now that's not quite as easy as it sounds, because in the business case, the most unstable element of the business case is the financial value, because often the bases and assumptions of that financial value can change legitimately through external to the company, like interest rates or exchange rates, external to the project, but within the company, salaries and staff numbers and all sorts of things can change. So even delivering the financial value means you actually have to manage this and control it and measure it on an ongoing basis. But this is obviously one of the most obvious measures of success. But bear in mind, if you are unsuccessful in your governance, you will fail to deliver these 4 V's. The second one, delivering customer value, making life easy for your customers to deal with you, giving them the products and services that you want, providing the wherewithal, the improvements to be profitable and have good relationships with your customers. Many a customer relationship management system has in fact destroyed customer value, made it harder for people to deal with them. So bearing in mind that part of your accountability is making sure you deliver the customer value involved. And delivering the staff value, the operations, making it easy to do things and eliminating the causes of error and improving the processes such that your staff have the tools and information they need to do an excellent job. That is the third level of value. And finally, delivering the shareholder value by generating the profits that translate into shareholder value over time. These are all determined by how well you govern and deliver the project investments under your control. You're not just delivering the outputs of the project. You've got to be focusing on delivering these 4 types of value through the project. The project's a means, not the end. These are the ends you're trying to achieve. Now, let's just talk about value for a moment, because most governance teams believe and hope the value will come. And they believe in one or more of the following sayings, shall we say, or beliefs. First is, if you manage the costs, the value will come. Well, in the operational world, that's sort of right. I mean, how operational budgets work is you segment the budget and give everyone their part of the budget. And if I'm a departmental manager, I manage to my cost budget. And I then assume that if we add up all, and everybody else manages to their budget, we add them all up and we get the revenue that was also planned, hey presto, the value, the net value in terms of profitability will come. Now, we all know that it's not quite that simple, but the idea is that you can, as a manager, you manage the costs and the value will net out. In the project, you've got to manage the value. The cost is the cost of delivering that value. So this is a different way of thinking. You've always got to say, well, what are we really trying to achieve? And what have we got to do to get there? And how much will that cost? And is it worth it? That's a different way of thinking of saying, how much is this project going to cost? And let's manage those costs. So this, if you only manage the costs, the value won't come. Variation on this is build it, the project, and the benefits will come. Well, no, they won't. Only about 20 to 30% of the benefits will normally come automatically from the delivery of a project. It varies depending on the nature of the project and the nature of the benefits, but what that means is 70 to 80% of the benefits actually need to be targeted and realized. So if you build it and just assume the benefits will come, you will lose well over half of the available benefits. You've got to actually manage the realization of the value. The reason you do projects is to get the benefits. The only reason you commission a project is because you believe that getting to the future state, the new way of operating, is more beneficial than staying where you are. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. And if you get there and it isn't more beneficial, then you failed. Hence the 40% of projects that fail because they actually deliver results worse off than when they started. So just believing that you can focus on the project and build it and they will come doesn't work. So this is focus on the project, then on the value. Oh, well, look at benefits when we finish the project. No, 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 no. You've got to focus on the value from day one. That is why you're doing it. Everything you do, everything that's happening on the project, every activity should be related to and linkable back to the value you're trying to deliver. Because that's the only way you're going to achieve it. Most projects cannot track what they're doing to the value. There just isn't a strong linkage. There's maybe a very high level benefits dependency map or something like that. But I'm meaning that you can actually look at each individual part of the project and track it back to how it will deliver the value that you're projecting. You focus on the value and then on the project. And then there's well, really it's about compromise. You get what value you can. We won't really focus on it. We'll do our best and hope for the best sort of thing. Well, that's when you really start to lose money. You need, throughout the governance time, which is not only during the time of the project, but afterwards when the benefits, some of the benefits still need to be realized, you need to be focusing on maximizing the value that's available and making sure it's delivered. It's not difficult to do, provided you focus on it. So as a executive, as a manager, you have a choice in your governance role. And that's really what this series of short videos is about. Do you want to be a professional or an amateur? Do you want to rely on knowledge or on hope? Do you want to focus on the business and getting the results for the business or the project? Or are you going to deliver value or just make budget? And Tom Peters said that, making budget is the worst thing you can ever say of a manager if that's all they've done. So, as we often say to sponsors and steering committees, successful project governance is never having to say, how did we get into this mess? But being able to know what to do, be skilled, informed, so that you know how to prevent getting into that mess. So really, successful project governance is much more than just making decisions. It's about knowing what to do, when to do it, why you're doing it, and how to do it. I look forward to seeing you on the next session. It really is that simple.